Afternoon. The Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026 meeting of the Sugarland Development Corporation is called to order. Madam Assistant City Clerk, do we have any, okay, thank you very much. Item number 4A, minutes, consideration of and action on the approval of the minutes of the January 6th, 2026 meeting. We have a motion by Watley and a second by Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you very much. Item number 5, resolutions. A, consideration of and action on Sugarland Development Corporation Resolution Number SLDCR 2601. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Sugarland Development Corporation adopting the policy on granting an economic development incentive for office readiness and repealing resolution number SLDCR 2203. And we have Jennifer Alexander, Business Development Manager, and ably assisted by Alva Penate Johnson, Assistant Director of Economic Development. Take it away.
Good afternoon. I will be presenting today on the Office Readiness Program. This was workshopped for you all previously. So we are just going to have a few of the highlights. We have the office market update, the Office Readiness Program overview, recommendation, and clarifying questions. I wanted to discuss the approval of what we're doing today. So again, this has been reviewed by the Economic Development Committee of December 2025. This was workshopped in January. Today's action, consideration and approval of the Office Readiness Program. The program is presented as finalized, incorporating feedback from the workshop. Today's meeting is not a feedback closing session. This program is being considered as recommended following prior review and refinement. We touched on this at the workshop. This is the drivers and the shifts that we've seen in the market. COVID-19, the acceleration, the shutdown, accelerated remote work, vacancy rates were driven higher, and occupancy has been slow since then. The hybrid work is pretty much here to stay. You are seeing smaller footprints, tenants want flexible seating, and employees are in the office fewer days of the week. And we are also seeing the flight to quality. Tenants are gravitating at Class A, flexible seating, amenity-rich environment. You have seen this before as well. This is a snapshot. We are comparing ourselves to the Woodlands and the Houston Metro. The vacancy rate, again, we have noted here is 15%. On other data sources, you may see 25%. Again, that is still incorporating Lake Point, but that should come down. As a reminder, Class A office space is your high-end, luxury, convenient amenities. You are going to see those office spaces in great locations. Class B, you're going to have those older buildings still in good locations, dated finishes, limited amenities, but those can be repositioned to be like Class A. The key takeaways that we have received from business conversations, roundtables, tenant loss over the year, tenants are prioritizing the modern amenities that are updated in other areas. Sugarland's buildings are aging and we are falling behind the tenant expectations. Competing markets do offer the Class A experience. So what's next for us? A program designed to elevate the building quality and respond to today's market. The Office Readiness Program. So this program will support the refinish of office buildings through tenant improvements, infrastructure upgrades tied to verified job creation and capital investment. As mentioned before, we constantly revisit our incentives. We want to make sure that we are putting programs out that the market is demanding. And so that is why we are putting forth the Office Readiness Program. The goals here are to modernize our inventory, encourage those office users that are in our industrial business parks, flex space to go into the true office corridor, and that will free up industrial zoned land. So this program is going to leverage that sales tax reinvestment back into our community. This is the area of focus. We took our land use map and we were focused on 2 specific areas. In the maroon area, that's our regional activity center, also known as the Sugar Creek Triangle. In the red, that is Sugar Creek on the Lake. That's our regional commercial services centers. In our land use plan, both of these areas are known for the need for redevelopment. They are supposed to be vibrant places, rich in amenities, and walkable. So as you can see here, we have office buildings built in 1998 all the way to 2009. Our vacancy rates are extremely high. Some of these buildings have had some renovations done over the last 10 years, but nothing substantial. The property owner path and the tenant path, these are 2 eligibility pathways. This is what you've seen at the workshop, but we did incorporate the feedback. the up to 50% instead of the equal to. So we did hear you all, and that feedback is incorporated here. The capital investment minimum for properties is $2 million, and then $750,000 for the tenant path. We are looking at anywhere between a 5 to 10 year lease. And of course, everything is tied to verified job creation and capital investment. Pathway rationale, I explained this at the workshop, but you're looking at a $75 to $100 per square foot in capital investment to modernize a tenant space. So if you're looking at a 10,000 square foot space, that would essentially hold about 50 employees, anywhere between $750,000 to $1 million in finish out, and then substantial modernization to buildings, typically routines, $2 million. So for the thresholds here, we are ensuring that we are supporting substantial upgrades to our market. We are not going to cover maintenance. So that is not the paint, that's not the carpet. We will focus on our entryways, our lobbies, finishes, anything that's aimed at attracting and retaining tenants. We are back to the program funding. I wanted to bring this back up for two reasons. Again, we incorporated that up to 50% of eligible improvements. We also included a program budget, which was recommended last time. So for fiscal year 26, for the remainder of the year, we were budgeting $500,000. And then for fiscal year 27, we would be budgeting $1 million. The agreements always have safeguards that include provisions for repayment if job creation and capital investment are not met. So you do have the project pipeline in front of you. You can take a look at that. So for fiscal year 26, you will see that we budgeted $4.1 million in the incentive line. And then for fiscal year 27, we have budgeted $5.6 million. And this was to in preparation for this program. So should we need more, there is the R4O. But again, this is a pilot program, so we need to see what we are going to receive in the market. Program recap, this would be repealing the headquarter incentive program. Again, that's not what the market is desiring, so we are going to be replacing it with office readiness, performance-based approach that aligns with today's office market. We're going to be responding to the flight to quality, so we are going to get that investment into our office spaces to remain competitive, and then reinvesting local sales tax dollars back into our community to modernize the office space and reduce some vacancy. So the recommendation, staff recommends approval of resolution number SLDC R-26-01, adopting a policy on granting an economic development incentive for office readiness, and resolution number SLDC-R-22-03. Any questions?
Any questions? Sanjay?
You said it's replacing the headquarter retention program.
Yes.
What was the learning from that program? What was wrong about it?
It wasn't necessarily that anything went wrong. We did have two projects that we were able to incentivize large tenants, but we are no longer seeing large footprints. Again, we have some remote to work style office spaces now. People want smaller square footage. There aren't as many jobs that are in office all of the time. And so it worked for us in previous years, and now we are trying to just respond to the market. People want smaller square footage. Again, not as many employees in the market. And again, this is really to support the revamp of our current office space.
I have a follow-up question. So you mentioned that it's up to 50%. When or who decides that it's 30, 40, 50?
Sure. So we will be taking in the applications. The first thing that I would be doing is obviously vetting the application for all of the requirements. We'll get that to our legal department to determine what is eligible. And then we will have a committee that meets to review the application, to understand the economic impact that goes into it, the market impact, different ways that we would score the application. And then once that's decided, we understand what's actually eligible, we would bring that forth to EDC, of course, executive session, and then before the board.
Questions, anyone? Anyone else?
I'll follow up to that one. So you said it goes to EDC. Does it come back to SLDC to vote to approve the incentive?
Yes, so it would go to Economic Development Committee, and then again, in executive session, a second time for questions, and then back to the board for approval.
Comment, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for considering our earlier comments. We appreciate you doing that. And I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion? Yes.
Do we have ready-made owners that are wanting to jump into this?
We have had preliminary discussions. We have refined a list that we worked with Data Innovation, but this is definitely going to be a boots on the ground effort. We have some marketing material that has been prepared, but it is going to be me out in the field in our business park, making sure that we have that interaction and that attraction there. But yes, there's already some interest. We've already had discussions with brokers, and they believe that this is the program that's necessary.
On the owner side or the tenant side?
Both.
Both.
I have, okay,
Okay.
Suzanne.
Suzanne.
Jennifer, I think this is probably the third or fourth time I've seen this. So, excuse me, staff has worked on this really hard, not for just the last few weeks, but for a long time. So thank you for that. Thank you, like Jim said, for hearing us and the feedback. My question is, R4O, is 373, 574, 40 part of the R4O, or is that outside of it? That's the remaining amount instead of. By the way, thank you for the update.
Sorry. You're talking about the remaining amount?
Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, is that inclusive of the R4Os or is that it?
No, that's a different line. The R4O is not in our project pipeline.
Great, okay.
Yes.
Is there a second on the table?
Yeah,
Can we have the
Second.
questions, please finish?
Okay,
Yeah, please, yeah, because I think sometimes if a motion is made before the question.
do that.
we can do that. You have a second, right? Okay, you have a question?
So I have actually a couple of questions, so I would like to
Please go
have your
ahead.
patience to go through that. So one thing, the program as it is written is 50% of 2 million, which is even if a one developer comes in, it's $1 million, up to $1 million at least. While we have budgeted only 500K. So what I see is this going to one or two developer, not really widespread. And one of my comment in the last meeting was, when we are funding 50% on improvement, we are kind of taking partnership. It's no more incentive. Incentive is 5%, 10%. I am a little bit concerned that we are giving 50% away. What are we getting in return? Are we getting a partnership with the developer or building owner? Are we going to get the part of the rent? This looks like too high a number for incentive.
So it's up to 50% of eligible improvements. So just because they're, the minimum investment is $2 million, it does not mean that all of those improvements could be incentivized. Also, when we're talking about our incentives and the project pipeline, we use these when we're looking at our negotiations to make sure that we're staggering payments correctly. And again, we have that scoring committee. So maybe I think that the project is amazing and I think that it deserves all 50%. I could have half the committee tell me otherwise. So we're taking a lot of opinions into consideration here. And then again, it comes before you all multiple times for consideration and recommendation.
This is my comment and not a question to you, but to the committee, that I think we need to relook at our overall incentive scheme and planning through a workshop in the council, because I think we are doing, of course, different initiative and all of them are good in their own way. But we are, I believe, putting too much money away without measuring what we are getting in return. So is it a possibility that we defer this decision till we do a workshop?
No. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, we have a motion, we have a second. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
So can we,
Aye.
I would,
Passes.
I'm just finishing the discussion. Can I put a motion to delay it or motion to postpone the discussion till we have a workshop?
Do we have a motion to close debate?
Yes, you wanna,
You can make a motion to table this to a future date, and then you have to have a second.
So people
Then
finish
you
their
will
question.
vote on it, and then once you vote on that, you can then, depending on the outcome, vote on the current motion that's on the table. So then you do make them, and then you go in.
do you have a motion to?
Yeah, I
table
put a
to a
motion
certain
to
date?
postpone the final decision to a date when we have a workshop and discuss the incentive as a team.
Is that specific enough?
Sir,
Okay, do we have a second for that? Okay, no second? Okay, all right. So we have a motion and a second to approve the item. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? Okay, one against. All right, okay. Thank you, Jennifer.
you.
All right. Item number 6, workshop. A, Sugarland starts Innovation Fund Program. Review of and discussion on the proposed Innovation Fund Program. Colby Millenbrook, Business Recruitment Manager, Jordan Cutler, Senior Marketing Manager.
Good afternoon. Today we will be reviewing the Sugarland Starts Innovation Fund program. Some key highlights are a brief look into the startup world, a look into the role of plug and play, Sugarland Innovation and why we are bringing forward this program, a case study of a successful innovation fund in Texas, a look at the actual program, a brief recap and how we are defining ROI, and then the marketing plan to go along with the innovation fund. Before we get too far, I wanted to lay out the schedule moving forward. This was approved by the EDC on January 27th. It's now here for workshop where questions can be asked and feedback can be considered before we bring it back to SLDC for approval on March 3rd. Now, a startup is different from a small business because it's meant to develop and scale an innovative product, typically aiming for rapid, scalable success. For a company to grow very large, it must A, make something that a lot of people want, and B, be able to reach and serve all of those people. These 5 Sugarland-based companies are all on different points in the startup lifecycle, but I wanted to point out that AOI, who is now investing more than $77 million into Sugarland, was a startup at one point with just an idea and a few people. This is one reason we are creating the Sugarland Starts Innovation Fund. This slide shows the typical life cycle of a startup and how a company evolves from an idea with a few people into a scalable, established business. Startups begin by identifying a specific market problem and developing an initial concept to address a real customer need. The company then tests that concept with customers through a prototype to confirm demand and refine the solution. Once the idea is validated, the business is formally established, a founding team is built, and early funding is secured to begin operations. At the traction stage, the startup starts generating consistent revenue, growing its customer base, and improving its internal processes. Then, with a proven business model, the company invests in hiring, infrastructure, and new markets to accelerate growth. Eventually, the startup becomes a more established company with predictable revenue, professionalized operations, and long-term stability. I'd like to welcome up David Steele, Plug and Play's Director of Texas, to tell you a little bit more about Plug and Play, what they do, and their role in the innovation.
Thank you, Colby. Mayor, council, members of the board, city leadership. Really appreciate the time to kind of speak what we do as an organization. I know we have a couple of new members on the board, maybe some new faces in here. So really want this to be an opportunity to answer any questions as well. So feel free before I give it back to Colby to do that, but we'll kind of speak into some of those pieces. Plug and Play is an ecosystem. Founded as our founder was an initial investor, just to kind of set the stage with Google, Dropbox, Logitech, Danger, and that continued to roll on. And so started Plug and Play in 2006 as a VC firm based in Silicon Valley, which has now led to being the most active venture capital firm in the world, where we're doing investments of about 250 to 300 checks on an annual basis. Check sizes run between $50,000 up to $2.5 million, depending on how we're deploying them, either from our family office or from the 5 specific funds that we run from a global standpoint. Second piece is our corporate innovation side. We work with over 600 of the biggest brands in the world, brands like Walmart, Mercedes, Amazon, Nike, PepsiCo, Chick-fil-A, so on and so forth, a couple hundred universities, and now in the last couple of years, cities like yourselves that are looking to engage in the innovation ecosystem and really start to bring to life what the economic development and the impact can be for investing in early stage companies. The third piece is the accelerator program. So our accelerator program, we run over about 100 of them in 67 global offices. That number is continuing to scale and develop as we continue to announce new partnerships across the United States and across the globe, with New York City being one of our most recent, and then a future announcement coming in Sydney, Australia, as we're looking into 2026, that we're super excited about. Our accelerator model is a little bit different. If you're familiar with the innovation ecosystem, we're a no equity and no fee founder-friendly accelerator. So meaning the startups that come through our accelerator batch, Plug and Play does not take equity in being part of that program. The only time that we would have an equity stake is if we were investing capital into that piece as well. So it gives us a lot of opportunity to really engage with founders at an early stage without the risk of them having to give up a stake, because as some of you probably are business owners, that's the number one thing that you want to keep, right? Is your equity and ownership in your company as you move forward. Second piece is when we look at 2025, we accelerated over 2,800 startups across the globe. What that does for a city like Sugar Land is really be able to bring global awareness, right? And so when your brand is sitting out there, not only the startups the team is locally working on, which I'll describe here in a little bit, you're getting access to startups from around the globe. So when you're looking at the AI groups that are looking to move here, to look to relocate, to looking to invest, or looking just to set up a regional headquarters, Sugar Land gets the opportunity through Plug and Play to really be able to land that. The other piece is when you're looking at going out into market for that recruitment, we have access to some of the fastest growing companies in the world outside of our corporate partners that we're working with. You can see it's a very broad group. The Americas is continuing to grow for us. But we do have impact in all continents right now, outside of Antarctica. And so when everybody wants to find Penguin Tech, you guys let me know and we'll start working that direction. But that's the one that we're a little hesitant on moving towards. Give you a little bit of highlight of what the team works on the day-to-day basis outside of just what we consider deal flows, which are very specific, targeted problem statements that the organizations, the Sugar Land EDC partners like Centerpoint and other organizations come to us and say, this is what we're looking at from a technology standpoint. We go out and find very specific source technology for that and bring that back to them. Think Shark Tank on steroids in that world, right? It's like we have a problem. We're going to go solve the problem by finding startups across the globe, whether that's investment, opportunities for revenue driving, so on and so forth. This is what we're doing on a day-to-day from an accelerator standpoint. I think some of you probably got the invite as we're getting ready to start the next batch here in the next couple of weeks, where the team went out and sourced out of our about 120,000 startups in our proprietary system to answer very specific questions around smart cities, energy, traffic, all of these other aspects that we're working on as a city, to go out, brought that back down to a top 50 list through venture sourcing, through deal flow. That list then gets provided back to our advisory committee, our boards. That then gets selected down to about 15 or 20 of those companies. We invite them to the city to see what the city is doing, how they're investing, what the city looks like. And then we do a selection process. So that's where the typical pitch sessions happen. These one-to-one curated meetings start to procure. And then those companies get voted on. We usually run a batch program of about 10 to 12 startups during that time, all focused on pilots and POCs. Really want to exaggerate on making sure that those companies are getting true business development opportunities with our partners. And so that's the piece that we really strive on, because these companies could be Series A all the way up to Series C's company that we're working with. Think of us less as an incubator right now and more of an accelerator, really business development focused. And then those startups get to finish with the Capstone Expo, where they get to come up, showcase, network, really kind of see, again, just experience the city in a different lens. Speaking of what we did here in the last year, 22 startups accelerated. Over 191 startups were introduced back to the economic development. So again, this is when you're talking recruitment, you're talking impact. These are the pieces that we try to bring back to the city, because there's a very small team here, but we have a team of 600 globally. And so what we want to do is partner with you guys to make sure that we're targeting the right industries and the right opportunities for y'all to be able to invest in. Over 60 events and activities. This is one of the most active offices in the globe. You see most offices kind of run 10 to 15 smaller events on a biannual basis. This one was doing on average about 25 to 30, anything from coffee meetups to networkings to dinners to large showcase events, engagement where y'all's brand as a city was showcased. Workshops and webinars, we'll continue to go through that. Another one I just really want to call out is $6.5 million raised from startups that took from our intake surveys to our exit surveys. There was over $6.5 million from those 22 companies during the 2 12-week sessions. And so just another good number of seeing how the impact is through the partnership that we have with you guys. Another big piece, and then we'll wrap with this to open up any questions. As you guys may have known, have seen, we've moved relocation from down on the square back up to another Reeves facility on the 2nd floor, really opening up this kind of innovation workshop space, right? We have 18 different desks. We have our private office. Looking forward to Yokogawa joining us in the R&D side there here in a couple of weeks. So working through just some final red lines with our international legal team, which is always fun. But we'll have those wrapped up really soon. But really the goal for this is to drive what the economic Elizabeth and Colby and the entire team has really put together, right? Is they're looking at giving opportunities to founders at stages that historically have not been able to be incentivized by the city, by the economic development, and they're unlocking this through the innovation fund. And we want to be the resource to help them kind of get to that, whether that's through venture sourcing, whether that's us being able to help sit with Colby and kind of work through the process of like, hey, this is a great deal. This is something we've invested in or we're looking to invest in. So we just want to be that resource to the team and to the brand. And so we're excited about those opportunities, as well as filling up this great space through a relocation process, which we know is extremely important to all economic development. So with that, I will stop before kicking it back over to Colby on this side and open up any questions.
I'd like to start. Oh, could you explain how the investment that we've made eventually flows through the entire system and comes back into the city's coffers?
Yeah, great question. And so when you look at the investment that comes from each city, there's a couple different pieces to it, right? One of it, of course, is headcount, operations, all of those pieces, but it also allows us the opportunity to submit investment, direct capital, either into Sugar Land specific founders that are growing, or inject capital back into founders that want to relocate or land back in the city. And so there's investments that happen from our cap table through some of the funding, the marketing expenses, the awareness side, the events, all of the other pieces that come with operating this piece in the local. And we can do a deep dive on what the actual impact costs back into F&B, into event space, into running activations, because there's a tangible number that drives directly back into it. All the teams that I run, I look to put back anywhere between around 40-ish% right directly back into the economy through running showcase events. Something that I'm looking forward to working with Chandler Muriel and a lot more, because I will be 100% transparent. The Sugar Land role for me is about 4 weeks into it. So it took on his Director of Texas role. And so about that, I've been with Plug and Play for a couple of years. Was in North Texas, and then now I've taken over the entire state. So the goal and opportunity will be more investments back into the city. You will see a lot more of the presence, and the team can kind of speak to the energy that I will continue to echo down here in South Texas.
Thank you. Jim?
So some impressive numbers on some of the things that we've done in 25. I'd be curious to know, how do those numbers stack up? You have other Sugar Land operations around the country and or the world. And while those are impressive numbers, are they in the top 10, bottom 10? How do they rank?
Yeah, great question. I would say from a United States standpoint, you guys are probably, I would say, in the top 15%. And I think the biggest piece that I've seen the delta and the gap on that is some of more of this ecosystem driving event opportunities, right? And I think that's the piece that we're going to really close in 2026, is how do we really bring that ecosystem from the globe, the metro, Houston metro, to the city. And I think that's where you start to see the local founders start to develop. And I think that's the biggest gap right now that would take you guys a little bit further up. One from an investment, one from an activation, because it's just not as ripe right now. The founder piece of it growing is where we need to really develop. We'll work towards that piece. But y'all sit really high from a stateside standpoint.
Okay, so kind of pushing it out to the next level. You're familiar with the innovation fund that we're talking about today. How do you see Plug and Play helping that effort be successful?
Yeah, one, I want to give kudos. I'll make them close their ears because I don't want to get too big headed on this. But the impact of the innovation fund is legacy changing. And I think the piece is that when you look at what you can do early stage from an investment and an incentive standpoint, you are able to impact companies where nobody else is willing to take a risk. And those are the pieces that change the game and can change the game really fast, or it could be 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road. I mean, there's an unknown to that side. So when you look at what Plug and Play can bring to this ecosystem, is a 20-year breadth of knowledge with 600 experts that understand how to work with startups, understand where the valuation is, understand where the returns are. A number I didn't mention is, out of the about 3,000 startups we've invested in, 40 of them are unicorns. So billion-dollar valuation companies that our founder and our ventures team were initial check writers in. And so we have a very good understanding of where the market is going, where to invest. And so working with Colby and team is going to allow them to be able to take some of that knowledge on to be able to build that in. So we bring just a vast breadth scope, and we have 120,000 startups that we can start cherry picking very early.
And just as a follow-up, you talk about working with Colby. So is that something you guys do on a routine basis? Can they call on you anytime when they have a question?
Yeah, Colby calls me too much. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's the problem to have, right? Yeah, no. And the funny thing is, I don't have a business and a personal phone, and so my personal phone stays on all the time. And so they have my phone number. We have weekly standing meetings around just kind of everything that is happening. But then, yeah, I mean, we probably talk collectively between the team over the last, I don't know, month, 2 months in general, 100 times between emails and calls and everything else. So we're here to help that. And that's what's important to us. And that's why it's important to have the team. And I don't know if y'all saw Chandler and Muriel or their local team back here. And the team will continue to scale and grow. That's why it's important for us to have the local team here, to be able to walk over and grab them. But I'm a phone call away and a short drive away, so it makes it easy.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, David. And I was in your office last week, met your team. It was a great presentation, and I think you are doing some great work. And also, I think this whole idea of innovation fund is very good because that's going to help us in the long run. My question is, when you say you will vet the startup, are you going to only vet the startup which come through your system? Or are you also okay to vet up if somebody applies directly to our team?
Great question. This is one, the short answer is we're going to help our partners. And so, yes, we're going to help if they come through our system or if they come through your system. I think that's a piece that's a little outside of where we are from a typical agreement right now. But we are more than happy to help in that process because that's what's going to create the most value for you guys. So yes, short answer is yes. Any startup that comes through that Colby and team need help with vetting, we're here to help vet. We're here to help walk through the process. Been very kind of correlated and collaborating through what this process should look like through it. But yeah, well, that's our goal is to be able to help that from day one because we're truly experts in the space.
Thank you.
I really like what the concept here. Where else do you play in Texas?
So we have offices, Bryan College Station, partnership with the Greater Brazos Partnership in Texas A&M. No whoops, okay.
Behind you.
It's okay. And then we have an office in Cedar Park. And so focused in supply chain advanced manufacturing. Our office is in McKinney with a heavy AI focus, and we office in Frisco with sports technology. And so, and those are programmatic standpoint. I think something that you'll see a lot more of is the cross collaboration between a plug and play Texas. We all know Texas is pro Texas. I'm from Texas, and so this is a passion project for me. Luckily, I get to do it with a brand that's global. And so, yeah, right now we're 5 locations, 6 verticals. We'll see if it stays at 5. I think we're growing. We're excited about that opportunity because it's bigger awareness, right? I think my goal, and I know we're getting recorded, so I'm gonna say this anyways, is to be the top revenue driving, investment driving top fund for our organization across the globe.
And you live here, right?
I live in McKinney, so live in Stonebridge. Got 2 daughters up in Prosper School District. My wife teaches up there. But I'm always looking for an apartment, so maybe we can put some up.
We'll find one.
Or one of these, yeah. I mean, we'll figure out what can happen. So I'm bringing my travel trailer down if anybody knows any good RV parks.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. I just think this is a great idea. So my question to you is, are there any other cities that you're working with that offer this type of program?
Yes. So McKinney does have an innovation fund. They've been doing it for a little bit longer, but this is rare. Like you guys are stepping into a space that is impressive. You are also writing checks that are more in line with very early stage access. And so there is a differentiator between the two. They have been in market longer, but it's also, that's the great piece, right? You're always going to have a competitiveness with other cities. That's all part of it. We're not going to beat around the bush around that. But what you guys are doing, the team has set it up where it's not a direct correlation. So, but there is that is the only other one that I know in the state that does anything like this. So y'all are moving fast to market and seeing some stuff that has been successful. They've done about 50 investments out of their fund and non-equity dilutive grants out of that side. And they just with one of those just had a career relocation through Plug and Play that was a little over a $20 million relocation through their initial thing. So that's been within the last 24 months.
So my question I wasn't worried about competition as much as I wanted to know there was some kind of prerequisite we could look at for a track record, knowing that this had positive benefits.
Yeah, great thing is your team's already been doing that. So they've been very, very hand in hand with that group, with us being able to with us working with both organizations. And so this thing is built really, really strong. And so the way that the team has built this is it's in a really good spot, but more than happy to have if you want some more references or conversations, we'll leave that, but I will put my personal vouch that the team has done this the right way.
Thank you very much. Rob?
Oh, one more question. So can you talk about the growth cycle of some of these startup companies? So I'm looking at these incentives here, starting at 3, 5, and 7 employees, growing up to 15, 25, and 30. With what they're looking to start at, are they gonna stay in that area? Are they gonna move around a couple times? Are they gonna grow too big and go outside? Like what's the typical growth path look like for these startup companies?
And you're asking a broad question. Each one's so different, right? And I mean, you look at AI tech companies that are scaling with 3 to 5 founders that are getting 10, 20 million in ARR and don't have to go over 3 or 5 because we're tech spending. You look at life science, hard tech, med tech, some of those pieces that you have to, the only way to scale is moving in people and hiring. And so it really is broad. I think the aspect of the incentive package is something that allows them loyalty. And I think that's something that we as a city bring is that opportunity of loyalty. Is if you invest in founders early and they're successful, then they're more than willing to stay in that location. You don't see a lot that when someone buys in early because they're selling a passion. They're selling their story, they're selling their livelihood, right? They're not selling them. Well, not all, some of them are selling widgets. We'll have a different conversation on that. But they're selling their passion. So for them, it's they trust you because you invested early. And then it's just, you're just going to show your city off, right? And that's what you're going to keep. And that's how you keep. But each startup's so different. It's really, really hard to line down where those goal models are. Some scale super fast. And we had one company that raised 5 million on a 25, turned around 2.5 months later, raised 50 on a 500 within 3 months. And so it's like, it's tough. Market shifted a little bit on that side, especially with AI. AI is speeding it up. So keeps me awake at night.
Thank you very much, David.
Yes.
So what's next, Colby?
Back to Colby.
I have a question though. Actually, it's more for Colby and maybe Jordan or maybe anyone here along the wall. Why are investments and incentives like this important to the trajectory of our city?
And with that,
What happens to a city if we don't do this stuff?
Yeah, so if we don't invest into, emerging technologies and innovation, then we're just seen as a stagnant city. If we do invest into them, then we get this perception around us after enough time that says, wow, Sugar Land really embraces innovation. They embrace, new technologies and all these new ideas, and people want to come to Sugar Land. They want to live in Sugar Land. And then it's kind of like a full circle moment when we have these great schools, this great quality of life. And then they say, wow, on top of everything they already offer, my business and my ideas are going to be welcome there.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it. Back to you.
Yes, sir. So Sugar Land has made a deliberate commitment to innovation, moving beyond the way it's always been done to embrace new ideas, emerging technologies, and forward-thinking approaches. This vision of a vibrant innovation ecosystem has been consistently supported by city leadership and is clearly outlined in the Strategic Action Plan under the All-In Initiative, Stimulating Economic Growth, which prioritizes testing new ideas, fostering innovation, and positioning Sugar Land for long-term success. The city took its first steps towards fostering this innovation ecosystem when it incentivized Plug and Play to come to the city. As David mentioned, Plug and Play brings more than 20 startups to the city each year. But just like the 30+ startups that are currently in Sugar Land, we have no way to support them or incentivize them to stay in Sugar Land. Our current incentives are geared towards established companies who have many more employees and much more revenue. This is another reason we're creating the Innovation Fund. David alluded to this a little bit, but just like Sugar Land, McKinney, Texas also envisioned itself as a regional innovation hub. That's why in 2020, they created their very own Innovation Fund that offered tiered-based incentives starting at $25,000. Their program was a targeted, non-equity dilutive grant, which means the company does not give up any ownership, that focused on relocating high-growth tech startups to McKinney. They quickly realized that $25,000 was not enough to get these companies to relocate, so they increased their minimum incentive to $50,000 and have had much more success since. In the 6 years of the program being active, they've created over 900 high-paying jobs across 48 startups incentivized. These 48 startups have now raised more than $40 million and are now valued at over $450 million. The takeaway from this case study is that McKinney, Texas has built a thriving innovation ecosystem by offering non-performance-based, non-dilutive grants to 48 high-growth companies. These startup companies, McKinney has expanded its program budget several times, and the biggest challenge they've run into is not having enough team capacity to review all of the applications they're receiving each year. All of the reasons that I've mentioned before this are why we are creating the Sugarland Starts Innovation Fund. The program is designed to incentivize high-growth startup companies to relocate to Sugarland. The program has two phases. Phase 1 for smaller startups trying to get established, and Phase 2 for established startups who want to scale in Sugarland. The goals of this program are to attract and retain high-growth startup companies, fill vacant office and desk space with these high-growth companies, further position Sugarland as Houston's regional innovation hub, and support the growth of local industries by bringing in new technologies and innovation. The general criteria and requirements that each startup must meet to be eligible can be seen here. To be eligible for the Innovation Fund, a startup must have revenue generation of at least $250,000 or institutional support of at least $500,000. They must be revenue generating even if they have that institutional support. They must be within our target industries. They must be willing to locate at least 3 full-time employees to the city for a minimum of 3 years. They must commit to meeting the minimum average annual salary of $61,240. The company will share data requested by the city within 30 days to help verify compliance. The company's location will reflect a Sugarland headquarters wherever applicable, like their website. And lastly, the company will commit to demonstrating a social responsibility such as sustainable practices or community engagement like internships. Now to begin looking at the program, we'll look at the Phase 1 tiered incentives. There are 3 tiers of incentives, all of which based on jobs and available funding. The first tier is a $50,000 incentive, and to be eligible for this, the startup must bring at least 3 full-time employees to the city. The startup must have a market-ready product and have demonstrated market demand with early customer or revenue traction. The startup must headquarter in Sugarland for at least 3 years and fall within our target industries. And lastly, the startup must create at least 15 new jobs by the end of the agreement. The second tier is a $100,000 incentive, and to be eligible for this, the startup must bring at least 5 full-time employees to the city. The startup must have demonstrated market demand and their product must be live in the market. The startup must headquarter in Sugarland for at least 3 years and fall within our target industries. And lastly, the startup must create at least 25 new jobs by the end of the agreement. Finally, we have the $150,000 incentive, which requires the startup to bring at least 7 full-time employees to the city. The startup must demonstrate quarter-over-quarter revenue growth over the last 12 months. The startup must demonstrate the ability to drive rapid growth and have a clear roadmap for scaling. The startup must headquarter in Sugarland for at least 3 years and fall within our target industries. And lastly, the startup must create at least 30 new jobs by the end of the agreement. Now we'll take a look at the Phase 2 incentive, which is negotiated based on available funding up to $300,000, along with jobs, wages, and capital investment. The Phase 2 incentive is the expansion grant, which is meant for startups who have received Phase 1 funding so the city can continue to support their growth and be a long-term partner for them. The startups are required to be in compliance with their Phase 1 agreement and have good standing with the city at the end of the agreement. The startup must maintain its headquarters in Sugarland for at least an additional 5 years, have a clear roadmap for scaling, and have demonstrated quarter-over-quarter revenue growth over the last 12 months. Finally, the startup must have at least 74 employees in Sugarland by the end of the agreement. To recap, Phase 1 has tiered incentive amounts of $50,000, $100,000, and $150,000 based off of available funding and jobs, and these agreements last at least 3 years. Phase 2 has incentives negotiated on a project-by-project basis based on available funding up to $300,000, along with jobs, wages, and capital investment, and these agreements last at least 5 years. As a note, $300,000 has already been approved for the Innovation Fund in the 4A incentive line via the budget process for FY26. As with every performance agreement, reimbursement is tied to verified compliance with the agreement. Annual reporting of jobs and wages is required, and there are clawbacks for non-performance. Now, because of the nature of the companies we're recruiting, the Innovation Fund will not see a normal ROI. Instead, we've broken it down into 4 measurable metrics to determine what a positive ROI looks like for the Innovation Fund. The first is participation and engagement. We're keeping track of the number of applications we get, the amount of startups evaluated, the number of offers we make, and ultimately the number of startups incentivized. The second is the financial ROI. We're looking at how much money was invested into the startup after the city invested in it. We're looking at how much additional money the city attracts for every $1 it invests. For example, if the city attracts $100,000 and the startups go on to raise $1 million, for every $1 the city invests, startups bring in $10 of private funding. This is a simple way of showing that the city is helping to unlock much larger investments. Next is the economic development ROI, which looks at jobs created, average annual wage, capital investment, and the amount of space occupied, whether that be desks or square footage. Lastly is the overall success of the startup. We're looking at whether or not the startup is meeting the performance agreement. Did the startup grow after the city invested in by how much? And is the startup willing to stay past their performance agreement? I'll now hand it over to Jordan Cutler, our Senior Marketing Manager, to present the marketing plan for the Innovation Fund.
Hi, everyone. So this was the marketing plan for the Sugarland Starts Innovation. So this will be the branding that you'll see that correlates with the Innovation Fund. The primary goals of this marketing plan, as Colby mentioned, are to not only attract high growth startups, but also to activate our vacant office space, strengthen Sugarland's existing office inventory. And of course, we launched our Ready for Something Sweeter campaign. So all of the initiatives and programs that we are launching will also kind of play into our Ready for Something Sweeter campaign that we launched as well. The key messages for this program, for the Sugarland Starts Innovation Program, is that Sugarland is creating clear, flexible pathways for startups. And Sugarland is not only a place where you can start in Sugarland, but you can stay as well. So again, reinforcing that our message is not just for innovation startups to come into Sugarland, but that they can start and stay. The audience that we have for this are startups and high-growing companies, investors and innovation partners, property owners and brokers, and of course, an audience that we always have listed in our marketing plans, our residents and community leaders, because we want to continue to educate them on the work that we are doing as an economic development department and why all of this stimulates our economy. So with all of our marketing plans, they are an integrated approach, which means that we are across several different we have several different tactics to ensure that we are reaching our audiences in multiple places. And so this is what you'll see represented here. The kind of base of all marketing plans is to ensure that that information is accessible, which we will do on our digital platforms, our website and social media. LinkedIn is an awesome platform that we can utilize because a lot of our innovative startups and companies are already on LinkedIn, and we have a great LinkedIn platform as well that we use to do our storytelling. So we'll really lean into that to talk about the program and announce what we're doing, but also again to educate on the importance of this program and how it stimulates Sugarland's economy. We will ensure that this program is also listed on our website. We launched our website last year, and so having that information accessible for people is really important to this program as well. We have an SEO and SEM advertising, which is just the keywords that people use to search in Google. So we'll make sure that this program page and the program that we have listed on our website is optimized so that when you're searching for startup locations and things like that will be optimized to find. And then we'll also supply our team with collateral to ensure that as they're meeting with startups, as they're working in the industry, that they have information readily available to supply to our partners. The key to kind of components of this marketing campaign, I will say though, are the public relations and the engagement sponsorships. Through the public relations, not only we talked a lot about the storytelling and the perception that we want to create with startups and innovation. We talk about, creating Sugarland as an innovative ecosystem. A lot of that is perception and narratives, and that is really driven through public relations. So not only we want to tell the story about this program and bring awareness to the program, but as startups come through the Innovation Fund and as we continue to bring those partnerships to you and get the approvals for those, we'll also tell those stories as well to make sure that we're talking about how Sugarland, of course, again, is a place not that you can only start, but you can stay as well. We will continue to target regional and business startups and outlets. So again, growing our regional and national audience is a key performance metric for our public relations partners, Lou Hammond Group. And so we will have them create a targeted list of platforms that we can reach out to and do picking to ensure that this messaging is across all the different platforms. And then with the specific startup community engagement, in-person engagement is very, very important. So we'll work with our partners and again, leverage our relationship with Plug and Play. We talked a lot about leveraging that relationship from kind of a tactical approach with the program, but we'll also do that with marketing as well. They have a great marketing team that we collaborated with to announce our partnership with Plug and Play. And so we'll leverage that relationship again with this program to ensure that not only are we leaning on their expertise and their knowledge about, you know, what conferences are best to sponsor and what outlets are best to kind of get our name in this ecosystem, but to ensure that Sugar Land's brand presence is a part of that conversation as well. And so we'll work with their teams to identify particular conferences and sponsorships that Sugar Land can sponsor and partner with to ensure that we're in the conversation and that we are in person, connecting and engaging with these partners to talk about this program and the work that Sugar Land is doing. So throughout the timeline, this will list out the different kind of things that we'll be doing leading up to the throughout the program pending approval. And so right now we're really finalizing the branding, the messaging, we're working on press releases, getting all of that geared up to have ready for approval pending that. We're working on the messaging for a program page, getting branding together to ensure that when we are ready, that we can kind of have all of that together for our public relations and the different tactics that we have. And then throughout April and May, we'll work with our different partners to leverage this program and to ensure again that throughout the program that we're doing and throughout Colby's initiatives that we are marketing and bringing awareness to this program. With that, I will pass back to Colby. If you have any marketing questions, I will be happy to answer them.
I have a question
Yes.
for either or both. Who is doing the evaluations of the candidates for the grants?
Yeah, so that's gonna be. Yeah, so it's gonna be an application process. So they're gonna submit their application. We're gonna hop on a call with them and we're gonna say, you know, tell us a little bit more, anything that's not answered by the application, even though the application is thorough. After that, we're gonna have, you know, all the details we need. We're gonna have a small committee that consists of us, the economic development team, along with Plug and Play, and if needed, an industry expert like Verena, who was recently here for the life sciences initiative. And so
Okay, great, thanks. Questions, anybody? Sanjay?
Yeah, so first of all, very good program. I think excellent work and good marketing plan. I think these are the kind of plans or scheme which we need. I have one suggestion that you have phase 1 and phase 2. And for phase 2, you said one of the prerequisites is to be in the phase 1. I would request if you can relook at that because some company, for whatever reason, if they miss phase 1 funding, they could still be a very good candidate for phase 2. If you can relook at that requirement of having phase 1 funding before you can apply for phase 2.
when you say when they miss out on phase 1, are you under the understanding that it is a rolling or not a rolling application or?
No, I'm thinking that, you know, maybe a company which has already passed the initial phase, then you launch the program. They are already in the stage where they are eligible for phase 2. That's one. Or second, for some reason, they were not approved in phase 1, even if they applied. But then they did so much better, then they are excellent candidate for phase 2.
We can take that.
Just a suggestion.
I appreciate it.
I think this will be a game changer, so I appreciate staff bringing this forward to us.
A question on all, I forget what you call it now, but you had 3 sections in phase 1. 3 jobs, 5 jobs, 10 jobs. A question on all 3 of them, let's just pick on the first one first. One of the farms, you have 3 full-time jobs right at the beginning. Yes. And then that big 15 jobs. Is that 15 additional or is it 15 include the 3?
15 additional, so
Right, that's true of all 3 of those.
yes, sir, for a total of 18, 30, 37.
Okay, you answered one of my questions I had, I'm sorry, man, earlier, but I just want to clarify. When you said that, part of their business plans will be, we will judge their business plan. And so many of these businesses are going to be in areas where you have no idea what the heck's going on. And so, how are we going to really fairly judge that? And you answered that. And I'm glad to see that not only is Plug and Play going to participate, but you will, where it needed, bring in industry experts. I would also offer just a thought. I've had this conversation with Devin in the past. There is a segment of our business community here in Sugar Land that they don't get to see what our economic development group does firsthand, and so they have a low opinion of it. If there is a way that we can include somebody from our business community in those evaluations, I think that would go a long way towards getting them more accepting of what we're doing.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Just a comment, I love the program. I think it's gonna be potentially a game changer. And it marries up real nicely with our office space program, right?
Exactly.
Let's fill those office spaces.
Yes, sir. That is the goal. Yes, sir.
Well, I got another question, and it has to do with the numbers on this page. So the budget shows $300,000 a year for 5 years. But We've got a 50, we've got 100, we've even got a 300. Where,
So those, for example, 50,000, that's gonna be across the performance agreement, so it's gonna be 50,000 divided across 3 years,
so not, it's
not
not,
upfront.
all right, that answers my question.
Even if we do give the $300,000 incentive, it's 100,000 across 5 years.
So we're very happy. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
Project.
Thank you all. This is just chock full of wonderful information. And David, thank you for coming to present today and for bringing your team and bringing Chandler back to us for a visit. So thank you again. And we need a motion to adjourn. Sanjay and Rick. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. We need it back.
We'll take it. Thank you.
All the stuff. Don't get
Sure.